Welcome to our special podcast on this World AIDS Day. I'll be facilitating this wonderful conversation. My name is Relebohile Mabocha, and it is exceptionally important that you join us because we are gathering to delve into insightful conversations with distinguished panelists from the Afrocentric Group. Who is the Afrocentric Group? A diversified healthcare company that is shedding light on critical aspects of HIV and AIDS management, advocacy, and innovation. And this year's World AIDS Day theme is Let Communities Lead. Let Communities Lead. And it's under the ambit that we'll explore how the Afrocentric Group does just this in the fight to end HIV and AIDS. Now, I'm not alone, so let me welcome all of the panelists that are joining us for this important conversation today. I'm going to start with, I would say this is the big shot of the group, Mr. Gerald van Wyk, who is the CEO of the Afrocentric Group, bringing with him a wealth of experience and strategic insights shaping the healthcare landscape. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Relebohile. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much. And then we have Ms. Maria Ramabauri, who is the General Manager, HIV Disease Management at Aid for AIDS, known as AFA. Keep that in mind. You need to remember AFA, a subsidiary of the Afrocentric Group, spearheading initiatives and innovations in the fight against HIV and AIDS. And I can tell you, she's a very passionate woman. Maria, how are you doing?
I am great. Good morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming through. And then we're also honored to have Mr. Billy Mukale, who is the Managing Director of Pharmacy Direct, sharing expertise on pharmacy solutions and accessibility in HIV AIDS care. Ntate, how are you doing?
I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much. And then joining us online, we have Professor Gary Martins, who is a senior research scholar at UCT, who's going to be adding academic depth, bringing research, perspectives, and development in HIV AIDS management to our discussion. Professor, how are you doing? Welcome.
Thank you very much. Morning.
Thank you so much. Also in the room with us, Ntate Tami Mutobi, whose impactful contributions in the specific field further enrich our conversation today. And if you are thinking, what is Tami's role? Tami is civil society and faith-based group representative, and that voice is always important. Ntate Tami, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you, Relebohile. Thank you.
Okay, so let's get started with why we are here. Gerald, I'm going to hand over to you. I mean, you are the CEO of Afrocentric, and we are gathered right here at Afrocentric's head office, your spectacular offices. Why was it important for us to even be having this conversation for World AIDS Day?
Thank you, Relebohile. I think firstly, as a health-centric organization, and as you mentioned in your introduction, being a leading diversified group, all things related to HIV, AIDS, and the management thereof, and ultimately the bold ambition of eradicating it completely, are part of the social discourse that Afrocentric has been leading for the last 25 years through, Aid for AIDS and AFA. And I think that's an important reason for us to be having this conversation and driving the discourse around how do we go about making sure that communities actually lead in helping society, dispel and manage the pressures around AIDS and what it means from a stigma perspective, but most importantly that we actually empower communities with knowledge and awareness and advocate and promote, for prevention around AIDS, and then ultimately that we get to a point where we can drive solutions around curing and eradicating AIDS. Who we are as a business, I think, is also relevant and important in that context. We operate the most diverse integrated health care business across Southern Africa, where we have operations across Namibia, Botswana, Mauritius, as well as here locally in South Africa. And I think what's important, Relebohile, is also the fact that we are integrated across many verticals within the healthcare space. We're in the medical schemes administration business. We have a leading asset base in that space, but we also play a critical role across health risk management, health-based technology solutions for the industry, as well as through the pharmaceutical cluster, and then on prevention and disease management. Our biggest business is MedScheme, which is the largest managed care organization in the country, with over 3 3.9 million lives that we care for under our business. And then I think also in that space, we take care of the administration of some of South Africa's largest medical scheme businesses through the government employee medical schemes, the police services medical schemes, as well as Bonitas and FedHealth. And then maybe relevant for today's conversation, seeing that we have Billy here, we also have the largest specialist courier pharmacy business in the country, where we dispense over 1.3 million prescribed medications for chronic conditions, including HIV and AIDS, to both patients in the public sector as well as in the private sector. And that gives us the opportunity to not just drive preventative care, but also in the disease management, making sure that we drive adherence. Because as we've seen through our business in AFA, being able to suppress viral loads and to ensure medicine adherence leads to patients living with HIV and AIDS having a fulfilled full life that they can also participate fully in the things that everybody else are able to do. And that's maybe the last business just to note as part of the introduction is Aid for AIDS, which really for the last 25 years have been leading the charge from an Afrocentric group perspective in making sure that we design, that we develop, and that we ultimately deliver unique and highly effective programs to help individuals living with AIDS to live a fulfilling life and to ensure that we are able to contribute in the discourse when it comes to managing HIV and AIDS.
Look, I think you've laid the land quite beautifully just in terms of the business and where you stand, and I can tell you personally know a lot. And I, being the layman at the table, I would say I come from the perspective of being a child who had an uncle who died of AIDS-related illnesses. And at that time, the stigma was so big that it was almost like secretive, like we kind of can't talk about what it is. In black homes, they would just use the signal of like, this is what's happening. You see somebody losing weight, oh, it must be that. But I'm so impressed to see how times have changed and developed. But I have to, and I'm going to come to you, Tammy, just from a perspective of communities, let's say. I'm finding that now there's a trend that people speak about PrEP and ARVs and how they're using them possibly recreationally for other things. Do you think we need to have conversations like that at tables like this of what people outside are doing with the information? Because yes, previously everybody was so afraid. Now it's not a death sentence, but it's also not like, guys, don't not be irresponsible, even if you're just taking medication once a month and it's so good and medicine has evolved.
Thanks, Kilebukile. I think that's a very good question that you're asking. The issue of people having knowledge is quite important. As you know that I'm coming from a faith-based organization, there's a verse that we say...
I knew the verse was coming. I knew Ntate Muruti, the verse was coming. Which is the verse?
People perish because of lack of knowledge.
Yes.
And you also touched, on a very important thing around stigma. I think HIV is one of those conditions that has got so much stigma associated to it, probably because of how it was introduced to us. It was introduced as a dirty disease. It was introduced as a disease of people who are promiscuous, you are unfaithful, God is punishing you, And not everybody who's HIV positive is HIV positive because they are sleeping around, they are HIV positive because they are not faithful, There are, good men out there, I always make an example with me, like me, or rather, Jesura, this man is born again, is faithful, and then it so happens that, the partner is having extramarital activities, I'll call them, and then they say they steal themselves, and while doing that, they steal other things, and then they bring back them here. But when it comes to the issue of medication, I think it is quite important that we educate people about medication, because medication is good only when you take it. If you don't take it, it's not going to be effective. And it's with the social media promoting, the use of this medication for, other reasons, we've seen people, getting robbed, members coming from collecting their medication, they get robbed of their medication because they use them for other things. So I think that's quite important that we educate members. And also those who are taking medication, there are people because of poverty. Instead of them taking medication, they will sell medication, to other people. So the importance of adherence to medication is quite important, that people must know that once you are HIV positive, you know your status, you take medication, it is quite important that you adhere to your medication and don't default, because the danger is once you default, that's where the danger is.
Maria, you coming from HIV disease management, celebrating 25 years of AFA, congratulations.
Thank you.
I want you to chat to us a little bit more about some of the work that you are doing in AFA, it being a subsidiary of Afrocentric, but quite an important part of this conversation.
Absolutely. And I think for me, Relebogile, what is important is to understand where we come from, firstly, as AFA. AFA existed when it was not fashionable to talk about HIV, when it was really seriously a stigma. And as an organization, we felt that we needed to be in that space to create hope, to give people the ability to have healthy, quality life. And during that time, they spearheaded the disease management program and has evolved into, a program that I would call a state-of-art program. And what makes it distinct, it's the people. Let me tell you, I work with passionate people. When you are in this space, you gotta have hope, faith, but empathy for the constituencies that you are engaging with. Like Ndate Muruti has said, some of the people that are HIV positive, it was brought to them. So you gotta understand the emotional, psychological aspect. And I can tell you that my people carry that passion. I am very proud to be a member of this team that exudes enthusiasm and understand that the impact of the program brings quality, healthy life. The second aspect, it's around access, right? And we may take it lightly, but at the beginning, medicine was not cost effective, right? I saw some stats that per script, it used to be more than 1,000. And today, I can tell you that, through our collaborations with Pharmacy Direct, we have kept that cost down and it improves access. The last thing is that the thing that most people take for granted is the care coordination that my team does. I'll give you an example. The role they play is to coordinate care between the doctor, who sometimes we have to educate in terms of the treatment regime. Secondly, the mental health professional who through the struggles that you go, because HIV is a journey. One time you are okay, another time you are not okay. So you need to be supported in making sure that your psychological well-being is taken care of. The third component, it's around the administration of medication, and we have got collaboration and partnership with Courier Pharmacy who assist us in that process to deliver medication in areas that, an average person would think you will not reach, but they're able to reach it. So for me, that access that this program has enabled people to have, it's a game changer. The last component that I want to talk about, it's the level of viral suppression that often it gets taken for granted. Can I tell you that AFA in its lifetime today has had about 515 members that have been enrolled onto this program. And currently, it's split between two organizations, right? The first organization is AFA. The second organization is MedScheme HIV, which Gerald spoke about. And collaboratively, we share knowledge, outcomes of research, and ours is to make sure that we are innovative and we make sure that there is access, there is quality of health, but more importantly, we empower people through knowledge, through engagement, and through several interactions that we have with them, either telephonically or through several engagement platforms. So I'm very excited that we're turning 25 years, and perhaps maybe to draw it closer home, because when we talk about these stats, people don't understand. I have got an 88-year-old who is in my program. I have got people that started with this program in 1998. Wow. So for me, when I see them, I get goosebumps to say, really, this is not just a talk show. This is evidence that when people go and test, they know their status, they take medication and adhere to it, we have got an opportunity to have people that are virally suppressed. And perhaps one storyline to tell you is that the people that I'm currently managing overall, we are sitting at a 93% viral suppression. And that speaks for the program itself.
And I think it's important to note, especially for everyone that is watching, much as we've had conversations around, the stigma around HIV, people will think you're promiscuous or you were doing something bad, or also it falls within the LGBTIQ plus community. I think it's important we note, it's also okay if you got HIV because you're promiscuous. You also are entitled to treatment and care. You are also entitled to support. No one is going to say, wena, because you're not welcome. Everybody is welcome.
Absolutely. And Relebohile, I think the root cause, if you have to dig a little bit deep with the stigma associated with this, is that an average person is not comfortable with their sexuality. And there is a little bit of a connotation associated with it. So back to your question, whether I got it through promiscuity or not, it's neither here nor there for me. We have to learn to move forward. You can't change. At the point in time when you know, after testing, that you're positive, it matters not what happened in the past. What matters, though, that I need everyone to understand is at that point, you need to take full authority of your status and move forward positively, because it is through that positivity that will enable you to have a good mental state and journey throughout your life, because we all know now that it's no longer a death sentence. If you take your medication, you adhere to your medication, you are most likely, highly likely, that you are going to live for long. And we see it in our AFA program.